to another review with Life with Chessis for Beyond the Gates, July 9th, 2025. First thing first, let me know y'all thoughts on today's new episode. What did y'all think? Did y'all like it? Randy, good for nothing. He done got caught. I said, how you gonna steal then get caught? At least he was. I think he said he found him. Did he say he found him at the airport? I don't know. I think he said he found him at the airport. He found him somewhere. I said, well, at least if he was at the airport, I said, at least he was on his way out. Usually they be in town doing something. But I got a question. Did Doug tell him to come have a drink with him or something like that? I thought he told him to leave town. I don't know. But okay, where do we start? We're going to start with Jacob and Smitty. So they still at it. Smitty still hasn't went home. They sit up there. I said, if you don't want nobody to know or be suspicious or anything like that, why y'all sitting right there where Malone could walk in it and see y'all? Come on now. But yeah, Jacob ends up saying how it was the first time that he actually seen Malone shook, and they would just talk about the fact that he lying and stuff and trying to cover his tail. What else did they talk about? Jacob ends up having a flashback. Somebody had bumped into him, then they went back and they showed it was his daddy, and he was asking him about it. And for a second, I was like, he about to tell it. I said, he about to tell it. He didn't tell nothing, and neither did Martin. I said, they gonna stick to this, but it's gonna get out. And Smitty was basically telling Martin that. He was basically telling him, look, I'm giving you the opportunity to tell me the truth, because I'm about to find it regardless. But yeah, to finish with Jacob and Smitty, let me see. It was something else. I know he had a flashback or whatever, but they were just comparing notes. They was comparing notes, and it was something else. Let me see. It was something else. Jacob had a flashback. We already talked about that. Elon ends up showing up, and he ends up asking Jacob if something is eating at him. So he once again asks him, you know, what's going on. It's going to come out eventually. Smitty is digging and all this other stuff. Martin having nightmares. And for a second, I was like, he about to tell it. He about to tell him. I said, look over your shoulder. Malone gonna get you. Malone gonna get you. And when they showed Malone and Randy, I hadn't even noticed that Malone had a weapon on Randy. I didn't even notice till Doug and them came in. But yeah, Elon started out trying to get Jacob to open up, and that's when he was telling him about everything that Smitty has uncovered. That's when he told him he remembered 2 years ago how he was in a rush and he was in just street clothes. He was in regular clothes, and he never does that. And he gave him an opportunity to tell the truth. Just like Smitty gave Martin an opportunity. Neither one of them said nothing. Neither one. I thought at least Martin was going to say it was a man here. Because I don't like, this is a random dude. I know Terrell keeps saying how that's his friend. But you don't know this man. You just play, what do you play, chess with him online? But yeah, I was like at least waiting on him to tell that. Because Smitty going to want to know why you not allowing them to get out the house. He going to want to know, why is you not allowing them? He already knows something is up, and the way he was talking to Jacob, he knows that it involves Martin. He definitely knows, because Jacob ends up asking, you know, did you really mean it when you said that if it was involving Martin that you wouldn't say nothing, that you would bury it? I said, too late now. You already he done told his editor what's going on or whatever. I think he didn't tell the part about Vernon. But I said, too little too late now. It's out there, and it's only a matter of time. And I still don't like how they haven't fully shown us what's going on. I think they showed a little bit more this episode, but it's just bits and pieces at this point. It's definitely is. Nobody really knows what happened. They just showed the dude, I think they showed the bottom half of his mouth and stuff like that, walking up to him. I think they showed Martin hitting him or something like that. They showed Elon. I don't know if they showed Elon last time. I know they showed Malone, but yeah, they showed Elon in the flashback this time. But yeah, I think each day that he has the nightmares, they show more and more of it. I seen somebody say, we still don't know what's going on. I said, exactly, we still don't know. We definitely don't. I'm waiting on Martin to tell his granddaddy what's going on. The fact that Kenneth wants double the money. Or whatever. And that he was in there talking to Terrell. But I was saying yesterday, I was like, I don't think Terrell done hanging out with him. I definitely don't. But yeah, that leads me to Martin, Samantha, and Terrell. So Martin was waiting on Samantha, and he was like, about time, and she was like, what's going on? That's when he was basically telling her she can't go nowhere else, and she was mad about that. Terrell came down saying that basically Martin was tripping and all that. He keep telling them, you know, in the field that he's in, you know, you got to be mindful. And even without that, you don't just let nobody in, whether you know them online or not. You don't just let nobody up in there. And he stayed trying to explain he's trying to protect them and all this other stuff. They just going back and forth saying he tripping. You acting scared, you're scaring us and all this other stuff. But they eventually went upstairs. I think he ended up hugging them, and then they went upstairs and they made a comment about how they not gonna sneak out the window or something. I said they about to sneak out the window. I said they about to sneak out the window. But yeah, I kind of feel like Martin could find a way to tell them without telling them, but at the same time, no, I don't think they still would get it. I guess everyone going to have flashback of the incident. We still not going to have the whole story exactly. All these flashbacks and stuff. I like how they show it in gray. I like how they show it in gray. But yeah, they having flashbacks, but nobody really saying what's going on. We gotta sit up here and guess. We gotta guess, y'all. I'm assuming something happened and he beat somebody up. I don't know if it was who Kenneth was talking about, cause he might have been more than one person. Y'all think it was more than one? Cause Kenneth said if his brother was here, so what happened to his brother? And they also said that Ted gave Kenneth a new face. So I was like, I don't know. But yeah, who else we got? Joey, Randy, and Malone. Then Vanessa and Doug came in. I was like, what they finna do? But yeah, Joey, Randy, Malone. He don't got caught. I said, look at you now. Look at you now. Then he can't get his story straight. What he said? At first he said he shot him or whatever, and he was like basically implying that he was gone. Then he said he shot him, and he said he watched him walk away or run away. Something he said, and I was like, dude, you should have known you was a gunner. Then you took money. I was like, But yeah, and then I said he knew he took the money and he going to hell. I don't know if he actually remember that scene or the episode where he was talking to Doug and them and he was saying how he was terrified. I don't know if he asked him to have. He did. He asked him to have a drink. I said, you ain't got no time for no drinks. You could have been up out of there. But they said Ted and Bill finna have flashbacks. Exactly. Did they say Bill? Did they say Bill came later? Not Bill. Did they say Ted was told later or what? Oh yeah, that's what he said. He said it got jammed or whatever. And then Joey mentioned how he said it was a witness. I said, dude, you a gunner. I thought he was up out of there. But then, like I said, I was like, you could take him. I don't know if I mentioned that part yet. I was like, if it's just gonna be him, I said you could totally take him. Cause I think when Doug and them came in, they were still trying to have Malone take him out. Joey was still trying to have Malone take him out or whatever. And that's when Vanessa and them was talking about he ain't going nowhere. I said, what y'all gonna do? Should have known Vanessa was gonna use her power. But yeah, so she just kept saying how that's Doug for long time friend. He ain't going nowhere. You ain't finna do none of him. You finna leave him alone or I walk. I said she ain't just talking about business wise. You know what she mean by that. So eventually, at first he was telling them stay out of it. I was like, right, y'all already on thin ice. What the world going on? I said, y'all stay away. But she finally managed to convince him to let Randy go. He was like, Randy, you could go. But I think he said he didn't want to see him again or something like that. I don't know. But then he was like, but Vanessa, you stay. So Doug tried to get her to leave with them or whatever. She was like, I can handle it. I can take it. I said, bitch, you can't handle it, girl. You about to handle it, all right. So then they don't, what if he came back? But I think at this point, it's safe to say Doug knows. Doug definitely knows, y'all, at this point. So, cause after she said she would stay or whatever, Doug made a comment. He was like, let's go have a drink. Let's have 10 drinks. So something he said, and I said, dude, I said, might as well go cheat at this point. That's what she doing. She ain't got no shame about it. Might as well join the club. But yeah, so he left, and it looked like the door was still open. So then she got up close to him, touching all on Joey and stuff like that. I said, she just was fascinated. I thought this would at least, run her off or something, because she didn't want to believe that he was like that. She walked in and seen the weapon and wanted to know. They said something about they followed him from where he was at because they knew something was up. They seen Malone or whatever. Hold on. How they seen Malone and everything. But yeah, he was like, you better not do that again. And she was like, we supposed to be in this together. And he was like, this is a separate business. But then they start kissing and stuff. And I was like, look at her hiding the pants to herself. I was look, I thought they was gonna do a storyline where she was pregnant at first. Remember the episode where she was in the hospital? I thought for sure she was gonna be pregnant. But yeah, what else? What else done happened? Let me see. Andre, Ashley, Danny. So Danny, she came over, she done made herself real comfortable. She done sit down or whatever, and she just kept talking to them and stuff like that. And she was asking Andre, and basically he was just using Ashley, and then he was gonna move on and just study inserting herself. And I already knew Ashley felt some type of way before she left. Did y'all hear her? I think Andre was apologizing to her, and she was like, "You're not the one that should be apologizing. It should be her." And I was like, girl. I don't know. I don't think they gonna last though. They might shock me, but I don't think Ashley, just like I didn't think Danny and Andre was gonna last. I don't think him and Ashley gonna last either. But I could be wrong. But yeah, she done got comfortable. She done sit down. She basically wait, I skipped the part. Ashley was the one that noticed. She was like, Danny's basically glaring at you. So Danny comes over or whatever. Cause at first he was like, just ignore her. And I said, see? And some people feel like Andre has a right, which he do, because they not in a relationship. But at the same time, he lied. He lied through admission, and he just lied because she asked him. He said on today's episode how the reason why basically he was moving on and all this is because Danny didn't really appreciate him, and because she was so far stuck in the past. Now she is stuck in the past. She need to let him go, let Bill go. But you was feeling Ashley way before Danny even came in the picture. You trying to make it seem like, oh, that's the reason why, because she was so stuck on Bill. But at the same time, Danny knows she's stuck on Bill. So, just leave Andre alone. Just leave him alone. But yeah, she just kept on or whatever. And Ashley just studied, just sitting up there. I said, does she realize what's going on? They doing a little too much. I said, they doing a little too much. I said, you good, or whatever they call it, your intuition ain't telling you nothing. I said, look, they're just going back and forth and stuff like that, talking in hypotheticals or whatever. Hold on. Talking in hypotheticals and everything. She was just asking him about him, and that's when he was like, he was involved with somebody. He thought he could have had something, but that's when he said she was too far stuck in the past or whatever. And Ashley was basically saying her loss. But then she eventually got to the point where she said she had to go freshen up or whatever. Well, first she said something about her bed. And I said, wait a minute. But she was like, she got to get up early for work. I said, you knew what you meant, girl. You trying to get him in bed. But yeah, what else? She's supposed to went to the bathroom, but I think she heard Danny was kind of coming for Ashley, talking about a nurse and trying to say she bored and all this other stuff. And I think she heard her, because she was like, what's this about? So we talking about nurses now or something, she said. But that's when she ended up saying, she had to get to her bed because she got to go to work in the morning or whatever. Hold on. And Danny, she just felt some type of way. She ends up mentioning how she gonna go home alone. Nobody gonna be there in her bed or anything like that. I said, I'm sure they gonna hook you up with somebody, Danny. I don't think it's gonna be Andre. But then again, this might go on for a long time. Oh, did he, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he basically tell her after Ashley left that if she said, that she wanted something real with him or something serious, that, they could be together or something like that? If I'm not mistaken, I don't know. But either way it go, he playing at this point. He playing, she playing too. Everybody playing. Everybody playing. But yeah, let's see who else we got. We already talked about Vanessa and Joey. Jacob and Elon. That's when he was questioning Elon, and Elon still didn't tell him nothing about nothing. He was like, there's nothing to find or whatever. And I said, when he find it, he gonna look at you differently, because you lied. You repeatedly lied. Smitty ends up going in to see Martin having a nightmare, and he sees him with the bat, and he just, where his tears, he came in with the tears, didn't he? He came in with the tears. I was like, wait, I looked there for 1 second, and he was crying. But yeah, Smitty was just emotional. He was like, this been going on for too long. No more putting it off. Tell me what's going on. So that's when I'm like, okay, Martin finna finally tell him, because this done went on since, what, February? Ain't that when it started, or January? I don't know. But he don't tell him nothing. He was like, it's nothing or whatever. I think he said he can't tell him, if I'm not mistaken. And Smitty basically said, you need to tell me before I find out. To me, that's what he said anyways. But yeah, he ain't tell nothing, just like Elon didn't tell nothing. And we already talked about Vanessa and Joey. Let me scan this and see if I said everything. Jacob remembers bumping into his dad 2 years ago. Andre tells Danny she realizes what she threw away, like he ain't been after Ashley. Joey lets Randy go, but tells Vanessa to stay. Smitty wanted answers. Yeah, I think that was the last thing, y'all. Yep. Joey tells Doug and Vanessa to mind their business. They be tripping me out, Doug and Vanessa. I'm like, what y'all gonna do? Well, Vanessa did do something, though. But yeah, that's it. That's all. Let me know y'all thoughts on this episode down below. Stay tuned for the next review. Until next time, deuces. Have a great rest of the day and be safe.